China is definitely not an ally of Russia. I mean, this friends without limits thing that was BS. What China cares about most is maintaining the status quo and keeping access to cheap Russian oil and gas. Putin wanted to intimidate Poland. That's why he sent 1,000 Russian troops to Belarus to take part in an exercise practicing an invasion of the Polish nation. But now it seems Putin's intimidation tactics are backfiring horrendously. Poland deployed 40,000 troops along the Belarusian border and, on top of that, shut down the border crossings that connected China, Russia, and Belarus to Europe. Now, Belarus is freaking out, China is freaking out, and, of course, Russia is feeling the pinch. So today, let's go over exactly what Russia was trying to do, why it backfired, and why China is extremely pissed off because of this. Barbed wire rolled out as Poland closed 2 of the remaining border crossings with Belarus. Warsaw said it was closing the border until further notice, citing Russian and Belarusian military drills as the reason. We closed traffic on the Polish-Belarusian border. This is due to the Zapad maneuvers. These maneuvers are aimed squarely at Poland and the European Union. These maneuvers are practicing aggressive warfare scenarios against our country. It all started with this Russian-Belarusian military exercise that took place right at the Polish border. It was called Zapad 2025, which literally translates to West 2025. The last time this exercise happened was back in 2021, when Russia used the exercise as an excuse to gather 200,000 Russian military personnel right at the Ukrainian border. With hindsight, we know Russia also used that exercise as a stress test for the full-scale Ukrainian invasion that came just a few months later. But contrasting that 2021 exercise with the one Russia is doing now, we can see the Russian military is suffering tremendously. Last time they had 200,000 personnel, while this time they had only a few thousand. Some estimates say as few as 1,000 Russian troops were there alongside 7,000 Belarusian troops. It just shows the manpower shortages Russia is facing after its invasion of Ukraine. Even with such a small force, Poland was not happy with Russia carrying out this exercise right at its border. They announced a week in advance that they would be closing all the border crossings until the exercise was over. The exercise was scheduled for September 12th to 16th, and Poland closed its borders on September 9th. This was public knowledge even before the exercise took place. What made the situation worse was the Russian drone attack against Polish citizens. But on September 10th, just 1 day after Poland closed its borders and 2 days before Zapad was to begin, 19 Russian drones breached Polish airspace in an unprecedented overnight attack on NATO. This was the first time NATO jets were used to take down Russian drones to protect Polish citizens. In response, Poland activated NATO's Article 4, which allows member states to request consultations when they believe their security is under threat. While this was happening, panic spread across the Belarusian border. Over 1,500 vehicles were stuck trying to cross into Poland when borders were closed. After the Russian drone attack, Polish authorities said the border crossings would be closed indefinitely and would only reopen once they were 100% certain no threat was coming from the east. This is where things get interesting, because China is very dependent on this border crossing that connects China, Russia, and Belarus to Europe. But before we get to China, let's see how Russia responded. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov described European concerns about these drills as emotional overloads. Brushing aside those concerns was seen by many as an indication that they were valid. Peskov repeatedly said the drills were not aimed at any particular country. But Europe, especially the Baltic states, had every right to be concerned. In the past, Russia often used military drills as preparation for real aggression. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 followed exercises in 2021. So, NATO's eastern flank, members Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia are on high alert these days, especially after the drone incident. Following this, Poland closed its border with Belarus and Poland. Latvia and Lithuania also closed part of their airspace. All these countries are conducting military drills as well, with special attention to the Sławki corridor, one of the most vulnerable parts of NATO's eastern flank. Now, let's talk about China. Remember China's Belt and Road Initiative. Belarus is actually one of the more important hubs in Xi Jinping's plan to connect Chinese factories with European consumers. Rail traffic passes through Belarus into Poland. In fact, 90% of all rail goods moving from China to Europe go through this railway line. Unfortunately for China, Russia's intimidation tactics are backfiring and hurting the Chinese economy. Since Poland has shut down its borders, Chinese goods are stuck in Belarus, where people can't afford them. This is not a small issue. According to last year's data, roughly $29 billion of trade happened through this border crossing, which Poland has now closed indefinitely. That's why Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi quickly went to Poland to find a way to reopen it. Polish officials admitted the disruption would cause losses, but argued security came first. For Beijing, the timing was particularly difficult. The China-Europe Railway Express is a flagship project linking Chinese factories to European consumers. It is faster than shipping by sea and cheaper than air. China sees Poland as crucial in this system, so when Warsaw closed its border, Beijing made its displeasure clear. Chinese diplomats argued the trains benefit both sides. Europe gets fast, affordable goods, while China gains access to one of the world's largest markets. But Polish leaders argued borders are part of national defense. Poland also says China needs to rein in Moscow, not just about Ukraine, but about the hybrid war Russia and Belarus have been carrying out against Poland since 2021. Back then, Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko faced heavy US sanctions for cracking down on protesters and forcing down a Ryanair flight to arrest a dissident journalist. In retaliation, Belarus opened a new front. migration. State-linked agencies lured migrants from the Middle East and Africa with promises of an easy route into the EU. Once migrants arrived, Belarusian border guards escorted them to Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia, cutting fences and pushing groups across. Poland accused Belarus of weaponizing migrants. Towns were overwhelmed, humanitarian crises erupted, and some migrants even froze to death in winter. Lukashenko's goal was not compassion but coercion, creating chaos to destabilize Poland and force the EU to lift sanctions. Many analysts believe Russia quietly backed the strategy, since any friction inside NATO benefits Moscow. Now, Poland is hitting back by cutting China's lifeline to Europe. It wants Xi Jinping to pressure Moscow to stop this covert war.